The Hayes Advantage with Kathleen Hayes and Vonnie Quinn.
And we're going to go right to our next guest. Steve Jackson's in studio with us. If you know anything about football, you know that he is a running back superstar. He was the first running back selected in the 2004 NFL Draft. He's had 7 seasons now, getting more than 1,000 yards on the ground. He is also somebody that you might not know all about. Besides being a superstar on the gridiron, he is a guy who spent his life growing up. I love the quote about going to church Sunday to Sunday. And a kid who hit the books, a kid whose family emphasized that. And what Steve is doing now is taking that background, taking that commitment, and he's applying it to his new foundation. Steve, I know it's a busy day for you in New York, and we are very happy to have you in studio to talk about this with us.
Thank you, Kathleen. It's a pleasure.
Well, first of all, tell us about that, because I think when you think of kids, even really talented ones, growing up playing sports, no matter how gifted you are academically, it's a challenge. What was it like for you?
It was very challenging starting off in elementary, especially. I had my story is kind of different. Second grade, I had a teacher actually tell me to my face that I would never be above average, and from that point, it really drove home that my mom and dad took a great deal of time and money and invested in that and after-school programs and summer camps, that I became confident in my classwork, in my reading, in my arithmetic. So things like that really drove home early, that I knew that a lot of people, was not as supportive as you think they should be.
That's amazing, though, that a teacher at that age would tell you something like that.
Well, absolutely. And one of the problems is that it can be quite expensive for parents to support so much, and the child may not have what it takes to sort of reach the big leagues like you did. We had Mark Hyman in yesterday who wrote a book about this. So what would you advise to people who really don't have the money? Should they put the money into this or no? I
definitely believe they should put the money into it. I remember times we were just doing fundraisers, just selling little candies and going around the neighborhood and just pleading, to neighbors and around church events to help out with that. And I believe education is priceless. I would definitely, as my children continue to grow older, I'm going to put a huge emphasis on them as well and continue to show them that, your dad is an NFL player, but it doesn't happen for everyone. It's not guaranteed.
That's for darn sure. And not everybody has, it's sort of a gift that you get genetically in a lot of other ways, right?
Genetically, and then you're fortunate enough not to have any serious injuries.
Exactly. Yeah, the luck of playing healthily for a long time.
Well, you are giving back, so tell us about this venture.
The Steven Jackson Charity Fund, we started in 2004, is based out of Las Vegas and St. Louis. And what we're doing is we're going in these schools and in different communities and encouraging kids to do reading programs. And by their completion of the reading program and their progress, I invite them out to the games. They could go in the box suite, watch the game, and then meet some of my players afterwards and just enjoy the game and really show them that their classwork is paying off in a way that they're getting to do things that they wouldn't be able to do. And then in December, I do a charity fund. It's called 39 Wishes, where we go to the Edward Jones Dome and provide these families. Last year, we hosted 3,000 families, and we handed out gifts and Christmas to these kids. And just really just want to make sure that they know that although I'm an NFL player and my teammates, we're on the stage on Sunday, that we're part of the community and, we care about them.
Well, when you look at what's going on for a lot of minority communities, we see that African American unemployment something like 10%, 13% for Hispanic communities, and of course, there's a big difference if you have a college degree. But when you correct for for that, there's still this big disparity. What is going on? Why does that happen? What more needs to be done?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that these numbers are so high, especially in these communities. But I think from in Las Vegas, in my background, growing up actually in a mixed neighborhood of blacks and Hispanics, that a lot of young people have such great responsibility at an early age that they put more of an emphasis on going to work early. And in Las Vegas especially, you get a valet job or a busboy and you get some great tips. And when these kids realize that they're getting money on a weekly basis and they're seeing the hard cash, they think it has precedence over their education in the short term, but in the long run, it's really hurting them. And I think these kind of situations where these young people are put in predicaments where they have to be the breadwinners or help contribute to the household, that they really feel that this is the route they want to go and put their education to aside.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's hard to put off, for another time what you feel like you can get now, even though it might be detrimental to you in the future. Are professional athletes in general giving back enough, doing enough? And is the responsibility on professional athletes? Should they have to do anything like this?
Well, I believe that is a responsibility of everyone in the community, but since we are on a stage and kids typically worship and want to grow up to be athletes and entertainers, that it is a more of an emphasis that we do take part of it in a major way. And I say that because I don't want guys and people just think you could show up for 10 minutes in a charity fund and feel like you're doing something. I really try to embed myself in the programs. I go to these schools. I go to have assemblies and talk to these children in the classrooms. And I really see that's where it actually it enjoys me and it fulfills what I'm doing, and more so than just showing up for 5 minutes and thinking I'm really making an impact on these children.
And, of course, you're listening to NFL superstar Steve Jackson from the St. Louis Rams. There's a great story about John Bon Jovi when he was a young teenager happened to meet Bruce Springsteen, and he told him he wanted to be a rock star. And Bruce Springsteen apparently said, no, there's so few people who make it. Don't do it. It's too risky. When a kid comes to you, especially a talented kid, and says, Mr. Jackson, I really have this dream, like you did. You wrote a poem, right? As
yes,
a little boy about wanting to be.
I was 10 years old.
Yeah. What do you tell him?
The first thing I tell him is, I tell him the story about what happened to me in the second grade, but then I follow it up and said, when I graduated high school, I graduated with a 3.8 GPA. So I always tell them that it is possible to be a smart and educated man or woman, but you can also be good in athletics as well. So never put either one over the other. And if you're really passionate about being in the NFL, I believe in chasing dreams, but at the same time, I have a plan B.
Yeah, because there's so much talk about this chasing dreams right now, isn't there, with all of these programs on television and reality shows and competitions. And the idea is out there that is, if you just want it badly enough, you'll get there, or if you work hard enough. But it's not just work and want. You also have to have a little bit of luck. And, there's so many different elements that go into being a mega superstar.
Yeah, it's actually just catching lightning in a bottle. And it's really hard to do. So, you could put yourself in positions where you could wear a helmet outside, and when it's raining, and have thunderstorm, and the probability of getting struck by lightning happens more. But I always tell kids, figure out what you want to do. Put yourself in that place where you're more likely to be around people that's successful in the field you want to go. That'll help you more so than just chasing a dream and you don't have any place you're aiming.
How do you keep your head so screwed on? How are you so grounded?
My mother and father, they're both they're moved from Arkansas, and when my dad returned from Vietnam, and they tell me the story of driving across country with $60, and just really working themselves hard in the hotel industry, and just wanting to make a better way for their kids, and fortunate enough that it worked out.
It sure did. I want to ask you now about some of the big issues in the NFL, and certainly the suicide of Junior Seau has put all the focus again on the wear and tear, the beating that the body of a football player takes, and certainly the brain and the injuries, et cetera. But you as a running backs have the shortest career lifespan of any other position. You've played how many seasons now?
I'm going into my 9th season.
How much longer? At what point do you say, I've done it. I had 7 straight seasons of great rushing. I'm a success. I'm going to get out now where I still have my health.
Mm-hmm. That's a tough question to answer. Although I have a lot of things going on, I was fortunate enough to be drafted and then let alone surpass the 3.2 year lifespan of a running back. But I think the reason why I keep going because that same passion when I was 10 years old still burns in me now. I haven't had a chance to accomplish a lot of things on the team side of my goals. I've definitely done things individually, but I think that's why we all love football, because it's the ultimate team sport. And when you have the chance to win a championship, that means a lot, because there's a lot of people sacrificing. But I intend on going at least another 4 or 5 years. And at that point, I'll still only be 32, 33 years old. So I'll still be a young man. I still have a long life to live, and I just continue to hope that my health is continuing to be good.
Well, when you read about stories like this and you hear about players like Junior Seau, do you not get petrified that something's going to happen, similar to that to you? I mean, you must have taken so many heavy hits over the years.
You think about it when the news just breaks, and you want to make sure that you're trying to do everything that protect yourself health-wise. But I pray that these issues don't, I have to deal with later on in life. I really believe that we do have to do more for the veterans. I believe actively as players that we should probably come up with some communities where these older guys that come before us and pave the way can come and talk to us. I believe it's really hard for someone like a Junior Seau or these other players that's been isolated from the football community and they don't have nowhere to go and plead and talk to people about their, what's going on with them mentally. And I can only imagine how hard it would be to go and talk to someone else that doesn't understand your walk.
So what about, it's becoming increasingly evident apparently that the NFL over the years perhaps did know more about the relationship between concussions and the long-term detrimental impacts, dementia, all these other things, depression, that may be linked to some suicides, right? Is the NFL sort of like big tobacco was? Hey, keep smoking, it won't cause cancer?
I believe the NFL is doing a good job of trying to figure out what they can do more to protect the guys that are playing now. What has happened is unfortunate with the veterans and the guys that came before me. So I say to them that we have to go out, and especially as active players in the NFLPA, we got to go out and take care of our own. That's definitely have made NFL what it is. But the NFL itself, I believe that, they had to continue to get these scientists and to try to protect us as much as possible. We understand that we play a collision sport, but as much as we can make the game safe for everyone that's playing, the better off we will all be.
What about the suspensions for the New Orleans Saints? Currently, 4 players getting pretty hefty suspensions, complaining that the coach not as harshly punished, saying they're going to appeal. And of course, the St. Louis Rams could be affected by this because your defensive coordinator is involved in this. Yeah,
Coach Greg Williams, we signed him this offseason, and everything now with this situation has really, has been unfortunate for everyone involved. So I just really hope that at the players' appeal, I'm sure they will appeal, that this can be resolved in a way that it's fair. Punishment will take place, and it should be taking place.
How rampant is it? Have you had personal experience?
I have not. I've definitely gone into games knowing that teams focus on trying to stop me in the running game, but not personally trying to hurt me at all.
Well, what's next for your foundation, Steve Jackson?
What's going on next is I'm getting ready to give my first commencement speech at my old high school. Oh. So we're going to go back and surprise the kid. Well, it won't be surprised anymore, but we're going to go back and encourage them in their going on in the future to college and in their life.
Steve Jackson, thank you so very much for joining us. It's a really inspirational story. We really, really are glad. And, of course, look for more on Steve Jackson's foundation. You can find him online, learn a lot more about the foundation. SJ39.com. That's yes. Steve Jackson. On Twitter, too.
You can listen to The Hayes Advantage weekdays at 12:30 Eastern on Bloomberg 1130 in New York or on Sirius and XM Satellite Radio Channel 113. Copyright 2012 Bloomberg LP.